everyone, and you've joined us once again on Good Morning Sri Lanka on the 22nd of May, and we've been talking to Arundhati on raising good children, which of course, as we said at the beginning, is a bit of a broad-based topic, and we've run through a couple of things. We've talked about how you can have your kids help out at home as well and kind of teach them good work ethic, and with that we're moving on to our next subtopic, as it were, and that is the value of not giving up. Now we have very fast-paced kind of life, and there's a lot of pressure on kids to do extremely well and to keep pushing themselves, and parents and relatives and teachers also, you know, there's a lot of pushing, and then sometimes if you don't do as well and you don't meet up to that kind of parental expectation and there's a gap, there's a tendency for kids to just give up and say, I can't do this, what do I do? And it can be with big things, it can be with small things, but let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, the main thing is, when you're talking of give up, is what you have to teach a child is not to give up on yourself, not about the skill you're trying to acquire. It's always about not giving up on yourself even if you fail. So as a parent, that's the huge motto you need to give them, because some kids can be good at one thing and the others won't. So just pushing them blindly won't lead you anywhere. You're like, you know, bouncing on a blind wall. So the parent needs to understand what this give up theory is, right? You need to tell the child, no matter what you do, try harder, see whether you can achieve it. This is where you need to have that kind of comparison. You don't compare your child to others. You need to always understand what your child is. And of course, like everyone says, even Sir Winston Churchill saying that never give up, never give up. It's easier said than done. So as a parent, it's how much you push your child to achieve things.
You mentioned something that I think I might get in a little bit of trouble for saying, but you said about comparing children. I don't know if it's a necessarily Sri Lankan thing, but there's a huge tendency to compare your children with your other children, with relatives, with cousins. Oh, that cousin did so well at his grade 5 scholarship exam, at his term test, you know, and you didn't do as well. You have 50 marks, he has 70 marks, and this, you know, he grew up to be a lawyer. That cousin, what are you going to aspire to be? And there's this massive amount of comparison, you know, and even with picking things like picking subjects, be it from, you know, grade 6, whether, you know, if you have a child who picks something like dancing or art as in comparison to something like commerce. I mean this is slightly later on in the years, but it starts at a young age of always comparing, you know, your kids. So how does a parent become a little more unbiased, as it were? Kind of take a step back. How do you do that?
It doesn't happen because, as I said, most parents strive to be the best parent in the world. It's a huge amount of stress they put on themselves, and naturally when you're in a society you always think, okay, is my kid slacking? Shouldn't I push my child a bit more? Right? So it's always, that is a question for any parent. But for the question you asked, I feel all parents should understand every child is a unique individual. Every child has their own potential. There is extreme you can push them to get something out. As you said, some can be brilliant in their studies, some can be brilliant in their creativity. So as a parent, if you don't understand that, the only outcome is that you're pushing your child away. So it has to be handled very, very carefully.
How much is too much, though? I mean, like I mentioned earlier, it's a very competitive world out there. So how much pressure can you exert on a child before you know that there's something wrong?
I think it's about how you see what your child's goals are. Because from the younger age, a child will always show their liking towards a certain subject matter and their dislike certain subject matters. It's just even inevitable. By the time they are 3 or 4, it is obvious what they like and what they don't like, right? But then as parents, you should understand that there is certain amount of goals they have to achieve. Just because they don't like to go to school, you can't tell them, okay, stay home and do your art and craft. They have to go to school, right? But the balance is within you, that the goals they have, how you support their goals. Right? And you need to teach them every goal has a deadline. right? So the balance should be created by you. You don't push it, but you create the balance.
Moving on from that to something else, and this is again something that's very useful in adult life, but again something that you have to be taught at a very young age, and that is with loyalty. Companies look for loyalty, relationships look for loyalty. Loyalty is such an important aspect of everybody's life. So let's talk a little bit about how you can instill loyalty in your children.
Oh, it's a very abstract kind of word when people say loyalty, but so much goes into that word. You know, it can be loyalty towards something, it can be loyal to be a human, or loyalty towards the animal. It's such a complex word altogether. So I think you should start on teaching the child basics loyalties when they are young. You notice when they are finding it difficult to be loyal, like even starting from friends. So when they are young, their friends change all the time, right? So you really don't take a miss at it, because you know they are moving and socializing. But especially when you come to the pre-teen years, you will see how they follow the leader, or they follow packs or gangs, and you know they try to just fit in, right? So this is where you should step in with your loyalties and tell them, okay, there is something called friendship, there's something called you back each other up. You can't just leave something behind. That's called loyalty. But with kids, for that question you asked me, they follow blind loyalty as well, right? They are blinded towards loyalty. So this is where, as a parent, you should make sure that you teach them what is right and wrong when it comes to showing loyalty, affection and love towards someone. There is a margin.
There is a margin. I think we do have a small video that we want to also share with you, and we'll come back and have this conversation once again.
Teaching your children loyalty helps them value their family, stand up for those in need, and make friendships that last a lifetime. You will need discussions with your kids, the ability to set a good example, teachable moments, and slogans. Optional: stories and fables. Step 1. Talk about the meaning of loyalty with your kids and why it is a virtue. Stories from Aesop's fables for younger children, or novels and movies such as The Outsiders for older ones can help teach the concept of loyalty. Step 2. Set a good example of loyalty, for instance, by standing up for your family when they are mistreated and following through on your commitments. Step 3. Look for teachable moments with a moral about loyalty or disloyalty, such as when your child shows school spirit, does something patriotic, or is betrayed by a friend. Reminding your children how they feel when others treat them with loyalty may help inspire them to be loyal in return. Step 4. Repeat catchy slogans about loyalty that your kids will remember, such as, make new friends but keep the old. One is silver and the other is gold. Step 5. Help your children fine-tune their understanding of loyalty by trying to explain that keeping some types of wrongdoing a secret is not true loyalty, but false loyalty. Did you know? Dr. Seuss's first classic book about the loyal elephant Horton, titled Horton Hatches the Egg, was first published in 1940, and its sequel, Horton Hears a Who, was published in 1954.
I still read Dr. Seuss.
I know.
So some good lessons learned in life at least. But talking about loyalty once again, anything that from the video that you want to kind of elaborate on?
No, I think it is the best point. And but again, as you said, it's a list of a lot of things to do. But as a parent, always we need to remember what is inside you is what you give your child. So they will always learn from the way you live. So you need to be that role model for all these things.
It's a lot of pressure on parents.
Yes.
Parents, I think perhaps we need to divert the attention from your children back to yourself. And I guess that is a huge part of parenting, trying to, stop controlling everything and maybe controlling yourself a little bit. Is that something that parents want to talk about and kind of have to understand?
You need to understand that the moment you have kids, that you're always on that high pedestal, that someone is always looking up to you. So letting go of yourself is a very slacking chance for them after that. So you all need to keep that in mind.
All right, while parents out there keep that in mind, let's take a look at this song. It's called You Raise Me Up, and it's quite apt today. We'll see you afterwards for more conversation.